Transform your life with a 6-month success plan. Have you ever noticed how 6 months can fly by in the blink of an eye and almost nothing really changes? But what if I told you that with the right plan, 6 months is more than enough time to change everything? Yes, everything. Your routine, your finances, your energy, your mindset, even your story. While most people are out there waiting for the right moment to start, the ones who actually win, they create the moment. And the secret isn't about doing more. It's about doing it better, with focus, with clarity, with strategy. That's where the 6-month plan comes in. It doesn't promise magic, but it does deliver transformation. And I'm not talking about motivational theory here. I'm talking about applying proven principles, the kind successful people use quietly without broadcasting it to the world. Think about it. You're just 180 days away from a version of yourself that wouldn't even recognize the challenges you're dealing with today. And the most ironic part? Everything you need to make that shift is already within your reach. You have time. You have the tools. What's missing is the decision. And that decision, only you can make it now. Because if you don't use the next 6 months in your favor, time will use them against you. In this journey, you're going to discover 15 powerful principles that high achievers apply in silence, while the rest of the world just watches. And here's the best part. You don't need to move to another city. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need a miracle to fall from the sky. All you need is a shift in how you approach life. This plan doesn't demand perfection. It asks for presence. And presence, when guided by purpose, turns into progress. Before you even realize it, you'll be closer to financial freedom, in control of your time, and living with the independence you've always dreamed of. But before you press play on this journey, let me ask you something. Are you truly ready to stop waiting for life to change and finally start changing it with your own hands? Because if you are, then let's begin. Because time is going to pass anyway. The only real question is, who will you be when these 6 months are over? You know, life is generous to those who know how to ask, but it can be pretty harsh with those who live in the kinda, sorta zone. Clarity is the foundation of every real transformation. If you don't know exactly what you want, you'll end up anywhere. And let's be honest, anywhere usually isn't where you want to be. Someone who clearly defines what they want to achieve in the next 6 months is already ahead of 90% of people out there. And no, it's not about saying, I want to be rich. It's about saying, I want to build a net worth of 100,000 raised through disciplined saving, monthly investing, and smart spending. See the difference? Clarity isn't a detail. It's a line between a guided life and a life that's just drifting. When someone has clarity, they stop shooting in all directions. Instead of trying to start a business, learn English, hit the gym, become a life coach, and still learn to play the ukulele, they focus. Because clarity filters. Clarity gives direction. Clarity activates action. Let me give you a simple example. If your goal is financial freedom, your plan needs to include money management, financial education, and maybe even building passive income. But just wanting it isn't enough. You need to draw the picture of what that goal looks like. How much do you want to earn? How much will you save? When will you start? Clarity creates realistic urgency. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making is saying they want to change their life, but they don't even know what that actually means. Is it earning more? Is it working less? Is it finally getting out of debt? Then write it down. Grab a notebook or open your notes app if you're more the digital type, and describe exactly how you want your life to look 6 months from now. Be specific. Add numbers, targets, even emotions. I want to pay off 80% of my debt, have an emergency fund of 5,000 Brazilian reals, and make my first investment in government bonds. Simple, practical, clear, and absolutely possible. Clarity turns dreams into targets. Your brain loves a clear plan. When you're specific, you give your mind a concrete task. And this isn't about magic. It's applied neuroscience meets financial strategy. Clarity is a first step toward building habits, creating routines, and building momentum. A young person who decides to live on 70% of their income invests in personal development, and track their spending is already way ahead of someone just waiting for a raise at work. The difference? Clarity, the compass that separates the amateur from the strategist. And here's the most fascinating part. Clarity is contagious. When you know what you want, people around you start to respect your decisions more. You stop being tossed around by other people's opinions, and you start attracting opportunities that align with your goals. Yes, clarity is magnetic. It pulls you away from self-sabotage and pushes you towards self-mastery. So now let me ask you a question that most people never stop to consider. What really matters to you over the next 6 months? Because that honest answer, that's where your journey truly begins. And when you start with clarity, you're already starting strong. You know what really separates someone who grows from someone who stays stuck? It's not their college degree. It's not the city they were born in. And it's definitely not luck. It's their life philosophy. It's how they choose to interpret what happens around them. While some people shrink in the face of crisis, others see it as a chance to rebuild. A loss can feel like the end, or it can become a new beginning. It all depends on your mindset. That's where financial intelligence, personal responsibility, and, believe it or not, the habit of thinking better before acting come in. And that, my friend, is pure gold. Here's the truth. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And it's in that response where the real transformation begins. Picture this. 2 people earning the exact same salary. One complains there's never any money left. The other decides to live on 70% of their income, build an emergency fund, and learn how to invest. 6 months later, one is still drowning in debt. The other is already building real wealth. What changed? Not the job, not the salary, just the philosophy, the way they see money and take ownership of their reality. A solid philosophy is like an inner GPS. It shows you where to go, even when the road gets confusing. And look, this isn't about dramatic, heroic actions. Sometimes it's as simple as saving $10 a day, reading 10 pages of a good book, like The Millionaire Mind or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and signing up for a basic course on money management. Small decisions done consistently create massive results. But there's one catch. You've got to know yourself financially, because you can only understand the value of a smart decision when you understand the cost of not making it. Most people want change, but they don't want to change. They want results without going through the process. But like one of my mentors used to say, success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by becoming the right kind of person. And becoming that person, it starts with the way you see the world. Life philosophy is about attitude. It's about seeing debt not as the end, but as a lesson. It's about choosing action instead of complaint. And the more you practice that, the more natural it becomes to live with purpose and discipline. So here's a reminder. Your life philosophy will shape everything. Your finances, your relationships, your productivity, your time, your peace of mind, even the legacy you leave behind. And no, it's not something you're born with. It's something you build through books, through failure, through conscious choices. What you believe about money, for example, might be the very thing holding your income back for years. So why not challenge those beliefs? Why not install some new mental patterns? Because once your philosophy shifts, well, my friend, your next move is to choose wisely who you walk with on this journey ahead. Tell me who you spend your time with, and I'll tell you how far you can grow. Yeah, it might sound like a cliche, but it's actually a life strategy. The power of association shapes your mindset, your vocabulary, your habits, and yes, even your bank account. It's nearly impossible to develop a wealthy mindset if you're surrounded by people who constantly talk about scarcity, crisis, and bills. Associations aren't neutral. They either lift you up or slowly drag you down without you even noticing. The people you're around act like a silent contract. You absorb what you tolerate. And that shows up directly in your financial education, your productivity, your focus. If you want to achieve financial freedom, you need to start spending time with people who are already moving in that direction. This doesn't mean cutting ties. It means prioritizing relationships that actually fuel your growth. Here's something practical. Join financial communities, investor forums, book clubs focus on the richest man in Babylon or secrets of the millionaire mind, or even masterminds about building passive income. and making smart investments. You need to be around people who speak your new language. Budgeting, financial planning, investing, building assets. That idea that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with has literally changed lives. If 3 of your closest friends are constantly in debt and make fun of people who save money, chances are you'll never break free either. But if you start spending time with people who automate their savings, track their expenses, build assets, and study financial strategy, something shifts. Your language changes. Your standards rise. Your goals get stronger. And here's the best part. You won't need endless willpower because your environment will pull you in the right direction. It's like going to the gym with someone stronger than you. At first, it feels like you're falling behind, but soon you realize you're pushing harder, growing faster, sticking with it longer. What once felt heavy now feels possible. The same thing applies to money. When you surround yourself with people who already understand things like monthly planning, emergency funds, and passive income, your progress speeds up. You start learning through exposure, through osmosis. And no, there's no magic behind it. Just conscious decisions about who you choose to share your time and mental energy with. So let me ask you honestly, who are the 5 people influencing your decisions the most right now? Are they people with a millionaire mindset, focused on progress, committed to personal growth? Or are they the ones who keep delaying plans, sabotaging their own goals, and blaming the world for everything? The people you surround yourself with might just be the most financial decision you'll ever make. And once you take control of your circle, you'll be ready to organize, track, and walk your journey with even more clarity, precision, and purpose. Not many people talk about this, but high achievers have something in common. They document things. Yes, they write stuff down. They record what they think, what they feel, what they've learned, and where they want to go. Because here's the truth. Your mind is a terrible long-term storage drawer. You forget the promises you made to yourself. You forget those brilliant ideas you had in the shower. You even forget the mistakes you swore you'd never repeat. That's why documentation is a powerful self-mastery tool. It's the act of putting on paper what must not be lost. A personal journal can be worth more than a spreadsheet full of goals no one ever looks at again. And no, I'm not talking about something complicated. It can be a simple notebook, a notes app, or even a beautiful physical journal that inspires you. The important thing is to build a habit of tracking your own progress. Imagine writing down every day how much you managed to save, what you learned about money, and the investment decisions you made. 6 months from now, you won't just have memories. You'll have growth. You'll start spotting patterns in your behavior. You'll identify your blind spots, and you'll see exactly where you can improve. It's like tracking your own transformation in real time. And you know what else documentation gives you? Emotional clarity. There are days when you feel stuck, anxious, or overwhelmed, and you can't even tell what's holding you back. But when you get into the habit of writing your thoughts down, you start to recognize your own emotional cycles. You realize, for example, that every time you max out your credit card, you feel guilty and then end up spending even more. Or you notice that on days you wake up earlier, you're more productive and spend less on useless things. This kind of financial self-awareness, you won't learn it from your bank's spreadsheet. It's born in the privacy of your own journal. Another benefit? Documentation turns knowledge into assets. Everything you learn about personal finance, investing, productivity, and a winning mindset, if it's not written down, it gets lost. Ever thought about creating your own life book? A space where you write your goals, reflect on your decisions, and build your daily action plan? That's where consistency is born. That's where financial discipline takes root. A well-kept journal can be more valuable than most expensive courses out there because it talks about you to you. And let's be honest, you can't improve what you don't measure. You can't grow what you don't observe. When you document, you take responsibility. And with responsibility comes power. The power to change, to adjust, to redirect your path. And speaking of power, let's talk now about the kind of investment that brings the highest return in the long run, and that most people completely overlook. Want to know what kind of investment pays the best dividends? Even during a crisis? It's the one you make in yourself. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about time, energy, focus, and discipline. People worry about stocks, mutual funds, crypto, but they completely neglect the most valuable asset they have, their own mind. Because here's the truth. When you become more valuable, the market rewards you. When you develop high-value skills, you increase your income, and with that, your ability to build wealth. There's a quote that changed my life. Self-education will make you rich. And that's not an exaggeration. When you invest in lifelong learning, in high-quality books, financial planning courses, or workshops on financial freedom, you're buying something no one can ever take away from you. Imagine learning about passive income today and apply it tomorrow to start a new income stream. That's not theory, that's strategy. That's independence. The right book at the right time can be worth more than an MBA. Start with The Intelligent Investor, From Zero to $1 Million, or The 4-Hour Workweek. You might be surprised how far just one insight can take you. But here's the thing. A lot of people say they want to invest in themselves, but then hesitate to spend $20 on a course or $10 on a good book. Yet they'll easily spend that on pizza and soda. That's not financial management. That's financial self-sabotage. And here's the irony. The same brain that refuses a $40 course is the one stressing out over not growing professionally. The problem isn't money, it's priorities. Investing in yourself takes a decision. It's understanding that spending on growth isn't creating debt. It's planting seeds for tomorrow's harvest. So let me ask you, how much do you set aside each month to invest in you? Is there a line in your budget called personal development? There should be. Start making it a habit to set aside a percentage, even a small one, for that purpose. Treat it like your automatic savings account for wisdom. Subscribe to a good learning platform. Listen to podcasts on financial intelligence. Follow YouTube channels that actually help you grow, like the one you're watching right now. Because growing isn't expensive. Staying stuck is. And when you invest in yourself, something shifts in how you see the world. You begin to spot opportunities where you once saw problems. You become more productive, more confident, more focused. And don't be fooled. The income growth you're chasing, it has more to do with your personal transformation than what's happening out there in the market. And if you get that, then you're ready to learn about a small secret. The one that quietly turns this entire journey into a visible miracle over the next few months. You probably heard the saying, grain by grain, the hen fills her belly. Well, it's never made more sense than when we talk about real progress. The miracle of incrementalism is exactly this. Understanding that big changes don't come from one glorious day of extreme effort. They come from small, consistent steps taken every single day. Imagine getting just 1% better every day. Sounds like nothing, right? But in 6 months, that adds up to a 180% transformation. It's just like building wealth with financial discipline. You don't see the results overnight. But one day, you wake up and your entire reality has changed. This philosophy applies to everything. Your finances, your habits, your productivity, your learning, even your emotional health. You don't need to double your income today. You just need to take the next right step. Start tracking your expenses. That's a step. Read 10 pages of a book on millionaire mindset. Another step. Cancel that useless 29.90 Brazilian reals monthly subscription. That counts too. And when you stack these tiny adjustments together, you start to see the magic that most people call luck. But you know it's not luck. It's progress. Progress that's intentional, progressive, and completely possible. Some people spend their whole life waiting for big breakthrough, the perfect project, the right investor, the ideal moment to start their business. And meanwhile, life keeps moving. Incrementalism sets you free from that trap. You start small with what you have. You build a habit of saving. You create an emergency fund. You automate your investments. All of it through short, intentional steps. And that's way more powerful than any grand plan that never gets executed. You know that saying, done is better than perfect? Well, done consistently is even better than just done. Think about it. If you write down one idea per day in your journal, in 6 months you'll have 180 ideas. Use just 10% of them, and your life levels up. If you do just 10 push-ups a day, that's 1,800 in 6 months, plus improve focus, energy, and discipline. If you donate 1 Brazilian real a day, that's 180 Brazilian reals. Small? Sure, but consistent. And consistency is the secret of the greats. They don't think in explosions. They think in construction. And those who build every day eventually live the life that others only dream about. So here's a challenge for you. What small habit can you start today and stick to for 6 months? Something so simple it feels effortless, but that, when repeated, could transform your life? That's the real miracle of incrementalism. And once you discover the power of repeating one small daily action, you'll understand why your goals need to be more exciting, more challenging, and more aligned with the extraordinary future you were meant to live. Have you ever noticed how most people live in let life take me wherever mode? The problem is, when you let life just take you, you usually end up somewhere you never wanted to be. That's why goals matter. They're not just a way to measure success. They're tools that activate focus, discipline, and movement. A strong goal can literally get you out of bed earlier, shift your daily routine, and change the environment around you. But here's the thing. Small goals create small lives. If your goal doesn't scare you just a little, maybe it's not big enough. Let's be real. Most goals people set are just dressed up versions of other people's expectations. I want to buy a car. I want to travel more. I just want to pay my bills. Okay, but what do you really want? What would make your heart race if you could actually achieve it in the next 6 months? How about setting a goal like, increase my income by 30% through a new side hustle? Or, start a YouTube channel as a business and reach my first 10,000 subscribers? That's not just a goal. That's the beginning of a new chapter. But dreaming alone won't get you there. The real key is breaking that big, exciting goal into small daily actions. You want financial growth? Great. Then your monthly goal needs to include tracking your expenses, building a habit of saving, learning about investments, and logging your progress in a personal journal. When you turn a goal into a routine, you stop living off hope and start operating with strategy. Daily action is the real secret, because consistency builds confidence. And confidence? It moves mountains. One more thing. Written goals are 3 times more powerful. There's something almost magical about putting your goal on paper, with a deadline, a number, and emotion behind it. I want to pay off 8,000 Brazilian reals in debt by December, without sacrificing my mental health, by creating multiple streams of income. That's specific. That's measurable. That activates your financial philosophy. When you read your goal every day, your brain starts looking for ways to make it happen. And guess what? The universe tends to respond to those who send clear and committed signals. So let me ask you, what's that one goal that makes your stomach flip just thinking about it and lights your mind up like a switch? That's the right goal. And if it's connected to your purpose, your growth, your legacy, even better. Just remember, a goal without the right environment leads to frustration. And that's exactly why, in the next step, we'll talk about the invisible space that influences your success more than you probably realize. Your environment is more powerful than your willpower. Write that down, because while you're trying to change from the inside out, your surroundings are pulling you from the outside in. Most people don't realize it, but the space you live in, the people you spend time with, and the content you consume all form the silent battleground between stagnation and growth. A cluttered environment creates a cluttered mind. A disorganized home can both reflect and cause financial chaos. You can't expect transformation when everything around you is working against it. Now think about this practically. Your bedroom, your desk, even your phone's home screen. Are they fueling your growth or draining your energy? Having an environment that inspires clarity and productivity isn't a luxury. It's a strategy. Want to live with more focus? Create a space that makes that easy. Build an environment that supports your routines, displays your goals, and breathes simplicity and purpose. Sometimes, the first big change you need to make in your life is fixing the messy shelf you've been trying to work on every day. And it's not just about physical space. Your environment is also emotional and digital. Who are the voices you hear every day? Which accounts are you following? What kind of content are you consuming? If you spend hours watching people flaunt fake lifestyles on Instagram or constantly complain about the economy, your brain is getting quiet instructions. Spend more. Feel inadequate. Give up. But when you start surrounding yourself with content about financial intelligence, time management, productivity, and personal growth, everything begins to shift fast. Want a practical suggestion? Take one weekend and do an environmental detox. Clean your room. Organize your workspace or study area. Get rid of items that only collect dust and guilt. Change your phone wallpaper to something that reminds you of your goals. Mute the accounts that drain your mental energy. And if you can, create a little productivity corner, a space to read, write, reflect, and plan. It could be a desk, a balcony table, or just a dedicated notebook. What matters is that your environment pulls you forward, even on the days when motivation isn't enough. Because environment is the soil where your decisions take root. And decisions are like seeds. They need fertile ground to grow. The right environment might be the very trigger you've been missing to wake up earlier, restart that project, or finally let go of a habit that's been holding back your financial freedom. And once you align your surroundings with wisdom, you'll notice your internal standards start to rise. And when your standards rise, your daily rituals take on a whole new meaning. You don't live what you wish for. You live what you tolerate. That's one of the most uncomfortable truths you'll ever hear, but also one of the most liberating. What you accept as normal becomes your standard, and your standards shape your results. If your standard is being late, skipping bills, canceling plans, maxing out your credit card, then guess what? Your results will reflect that same energy. The good news? Standards can be raised. They're flexible. They can be redefined. All it takes is a decision, a bit of responsibility, and the courage to stop settling for just okay. Think about it. If you raise your health standard, you start sleeping better, eating better, and gaining more mental energy. If you raise your financial standard, you begin living on 70% of your income, saving automatically, and looking for smart investments. Not because someone told you to, but because you decided you won't live on autopilot anymore. Raising your standards isn't about arrogance. It's about self-mastery. It's that moment when you say, "This no longer represents me," and you draw a new line in the sand. It's when you trade excuses for execution. Want a powerful exercise? Write down what you consider to be your minimum acceptable in each area of life. Your finances, your health, your relationships, your career. Then go back and ask yourself, what if I demanded more for myself here? Instead of paying bills on time, what about building a 3-month emergency fund? That changes everything. Because when your standard goes up, your effort rises to meet it. And so do your results. Your income grows when your level of delivery grows. Your influence expands when your communication standards rise. Standards pull everything upward. But here's the warning. Raising your standards will make people uncomfortable. You'll have to say no to things you used to accept without hesitation. You might lose some company along the way, but that's part of the process. You can't build an extraordinary life on average standards. The people who transform their finances, their careers, and their relationships are the ones who reach a breaking point and say, enough of settling, enough of living below their potential. And once that decision is made, what follows are daily rituals that reinforce this new identity. Because standards are sustained by repetition. And if you want this new level to become your new normal, you've got to turn this behavior into a habit. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. How to turn your elevated standards into daily routines that shape not just what you do, but who you become. Your day reveals your destiny. It's not the big plans, the exciting speeches, or the beautiful dreams that shape your life. It's your rituals. The things you do every single day, quietly, without applause, but with consistency. Rituals are habits with intention. Waking up and drinking lemon water might seem small, but if it connects you to self-care, it's a ritual. Waking up 1 hour earlier? That's one of the most powerful rituals you can build. Over 6 months, That's 180 extra hours. And you know what you can do with that? Start a new career. Read 6 books. Plan your first business. And the best part about rituals? They free you from depending on motivation. Because let's be honest, no one wakes up motivated every single day. But if you've already built the habit of tracking your expenses, reviewing your goals, and reading 10 pages each morning, you'll keep moving forward, even when you're not in the mood. Rituals automate progress. They build consistency. And consistency builds results. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just repeat the right direction until you arrive. And this is especially true for financial discipline. Your ritual might be as simple as opening your banking app every morning to check what came in, what went out, and where you can improve. Want another powerful ritual? Try the weekly review once a week. Sit down with your journal or your app and ask yourself 3 simple questions. What did I do well? What can I improve? What's my next step? Do this for your finances, and suddenly you feel in control. You gain clarity. You start to see that money is just a tool, not a mystery. A ritual this simple can prepare you emotionally to handle investments, budgeting, and financial decisions with more maturity and less impulse. Now, maybe you're thinking, but what if I can't stick to these rituals? Here's the answer. Start with just one. Small, easy, something that takes less than 5 minutes. It could be writing down one thing you're grateful for. It could be putting away 2 Brazilian reals in a jar each day. It could be reviewing your goal before bed. And over time, that ritual becomes part of your identity. And once it becomes who you are, you don't need to remind yourself anymore. It happens naturally, like brushing your teeth. That's the secret of the masters, making the extraordinary feel normal. Because that's exactly what you need now. A routine that reminds you daily of who you're becoming. A rhythm that keeps you aligned with your goals, your standards, your philosophy of life. And believe me, when your rituals match your vision, you won't need much more. But if you want to take it a step further and make sure all of this sticks with even more consistency, our next topic will show you the hidden power of having someone walking with you through every stage of the journey. Now it's time to talk about one of the least glamorous, but most transformational pillars of the success journey, responsibility. And when I say responsibility, I'm not talking about blame. I'm talking about taking the wheel of your own ship. It's understanding that even when things happen beyond your control, how you respond is your choice. People who see themselves as victims give away the power to change. But the person who says, starting today, I take responsibility for my results, that person has already started to win. You want to change your financial life? You want financial freedom, real assets, solid wealth? Then it's time to level up your responsibility. Why not start by getting an accountability partner? A friend, a mentor, a study group, a mastermind, someone who walks with you. Because here's the truth. We push ourselves harder when we know someone's going to ask, did you do what you said you would? It's just like planning to go to the gym with a friend. You might think about skipping, but the commitment pulls you back in. Responsibility is also about tracking. Yes, that old but powerful habit of writing down what you promise yourself. But here's the key. Give it a name and a deadline. If you said you're going to save 300 Brazilian reals every month, write it down. Share it with someone you trust. Make it public. Even if it's just between you and your journal. Because when you commit to something in front of another person, or even on paper, it shifts. It stops being just an idea and becomes commitment. And commitment is the fertile ground where real progress grows. Now, a very important reminder. Being responsible doesn't mean being hard on yourself. It means being honest. It means saying, yes, I made a mistake. But also, yes, I can fix it starting today. It's about finally facing that debt, that lack of planning, that budget you keep putting off, and admitting, if I don't change, no one's going to change it for me. And the most beautiful part, when you take full responsibility, you free yourself. You stop depending on external things to feel empowered and start transforming your life from the inside out. And once you start seeing yourself as the CEO of your own life, everything shifts. Your habits, your decisions, your priorities. You stop looking for people to blame and start looking for ways to grow. You stop waiting and start acting. And once you've taken control, you need to choose where you'll put your focus. Because without focus, even responsibility starts to scatter. And that's exactly what we'll talk about next. The power of intentional focus and how it can reshape your results from the inside out. In a world where everything is fighting for your attention, news, notifications, social media, endless demands, focus has become a superpower. Those who master focus master their destiny. And believe me, it's not that you don't have time. It's that your time is being drained by priorities that aren't even yours. People with financial intelligence and a growth mindset aren't the ones doing more. They're the ones doing what matters most. They choose what to focus on because they understand that mental energy is a limited resource, and you can only spend it on what really counts. Think about it. Focus is about saying yes to what you want. It's about saying no to dozens of good things to protect what's essential. If your goal is to get out of debt in the next 6 months, you'll need focus. You'll need to cut distractions. Control your spending. Study real financial strategies. You'll have to stop binging those get rich while you sleep videos and start focusing on content that teaches how to build wealth through discipline. Now, focus is a skill. And here's the best part. It grows with practice. The more you train your attention, the sharper your progress becomes. Most people are busy, but few are truly productive. The difference? Focus. You can spend hours being busy with things that don't bring you closer to your goals. Or you could spend just 1 hour laser focused, reviewing your goals, planning your financial week, and making powerful decisions about your money and income streams. That's smart focus. That's the difference between someone who grows every month and someone who's just surviving. And the secret is making that focus a habit, turning it into a ritual, so it serves you instead of sabotaging you. Want a simple, powerful exercise? Pick one thing per day that you'll do with 100% focus. It could be reviewing your finances, studying something new, or creating a weekly action plan. What matters is training your brain to enter laser mode. Put your phone on airplane mode, set a timer, play some instrumental music, and go deep. At first, it'll be tough. Your brain will beg for distractions. But if you resist for just a few days, you'll start to feel your productivity skyrocket. And with it, your progress. Because in the end, it's focus that keeps your discipline alive when your motivation disappears. Focus holds you steady on gray days. It turns small daily actions into massive monthly wins. But here's the thing. Focus without purpose becomes rigidity. And focus without contribution becomes selfish. That's why next, we need to explore how your personal growth can and should become something that creates value far beyond just yourself. You know what's one of the most underrated secrets of true wealth? Contribution. Yes, that's right. Real prosperity isn't just about what you accumulate. It's about what you share. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about your time, your energy, your knowledge, your attention, your experience. Because when you live only for yourself, even success can start to feel empty. But when you realize that your life can be useful, relevant, transformational for someone else, everything gains a deeper meaning. That's when you become valuable. And wherever there's value, there's return. One common mistake is thinking only people who have made it can contribute. But the truth is, you already have something to offer. Have you thought about sharing what you've learned about personal finance with someone else? Or maybe making a habit of donating a small part of your extra income. That's an investment, too. An investment in legacy, in financial culture, in changing someone's perspective, maybe even their life. You could be the missing spark for a friend, a breakthrough for your child's future, an example for a coworker. Sharing doesn't reduce you, it expands you, it multiplies. And here's a powerful truth. When you give, you create flow. The energy you put out comes back. In gratitude, in relationships, in new opportunities. Even more than that, it gives you something deeper, a sense of purpose, a sense of wholeness. Like the old saying goes, when you help someone climb the mountain, you rise too. Contribution creates purpose. Purpose sustains discipline. Discipline builds sustainable results. It's the healthiest cycle you can create, one that connects personal growth with positive impact. Want to put this into practice today? Start small. Set aside 1% of your income to give, no matter how much it is. Send a book that changed your life to someone who needs it. Share a video like this with a friend who's feeling lost. Listen, really listen, to someone who's never had a voice. Contribution doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be genuine. And when it becomes part of your life strategy, you'll realize you're not just building wealth. You're leaving a trail of value everywhere you go. Because giving connects you to something greater. It frees you from ego, from comparison, from emotional scarcity. And it reminds you, you don't have to be a millionaire to live generously. You just have to choose it. And now, imagine aligning that spirit of contribution with bold, fast, decisive action. That's exactly what the next principle is all about, the one that turns your goals into defining moments in your life. Life doesn't change when you learn something new. Life changes when you decide. It's that simple. Every breakthrough begins with a decision, and it grows stronger through the commitment to stick with it. Here's a hard truth. Most people already know what they need to do, but they stay stuck because they haven't truly decided. They stay in that zone of, I'll try, I'll see how it goes. I'll start on Monday. But let's be honest, Monday doesn't change anyone. What changes your life is that moment when you say, enough, starting today, I decide to change. You know what separates the ones who win from the ones who keep postponing? Winners make decisions quickly and change slowly. Frustrated people make decisions slowly and change quickly, usually by giving up. A solid decision takes clarity, courage, and responsibility. It's looking at your debt, your stagnation, your old patterns, and choosing a new direction. It's deciding to invest in yourself, to live with less so you can build more, to step out of the comfort zone and into the construction zone. Yes, it's hard, but it's also worth it. Here's a real-world example. Deciding to live on 70% of your income and allocating the rest toward investments and generosity. That's a decision that changes how you act today. Or deciding to study financial education for 30 minutes a day for the next 6 months. That decision could save you decades of ignorance. Decisions like that lay foundations. And when you choose with conviction, the universe starts to move around you. Opportunities show up. The right people cross your path because your focus sends a message of strength. But let's be clear. Deciding doesn't mean you know how to do everything yet. It just means you're committed to figuring it out, no matter what. It means you'll face the obstacles with resilience. You'll learn from your mistakes. You'll adapt, stay consistent, and move forward. A real decision transforms your identity. You stop being someone who tries and become someone who does. And once you become that person, your path changes. Your energy shifts. And so do your results. So now think, what decisions have you been putting off? What conversations are you avoiding? What promises to yourself have you quietly ignored? Maybe what you're missing isn't more time. It's not more money. It's just a clear, bold, honest decision. Because one decision, truly made, opens a door to something even more powerful. A fresh perspective on what you already have and what most people completely overlook. And that takes us straight to the next principle. You might be just one thought away from the peace you've been searching for. And that thought is called gratitude. It might sound simple, even cliche, but anyone who truly practices gratitude knows. It's not passive. Gratitude is power in motion. It's the intentional recognition of what already works, of what already is wealth, of what's already a blessing in your life. And here's the incredible part. Grateful people prosper more because they see more, where the ungrateful see problems. The grateful see opportunities. And that changes everything. Gratitude doesn't ignore hardship. It just refuses to make pain your identity. You might be in debt right now, But if you're grateful for what you're learning, for the access you have to knowledge, you're already shifting. You could be in the middle of your worst financial moment and still write in your journal, "I'm grateful for learning to track my spending. I'm grateful for understanding the value of monthly planning. I'm grateful for having the chance to start over." 3 entries a day for 180 days. That's 540 moments of gratitude that rewires your brain. And over time, it rewires your results. And it doesn't have to be just on paper. You can practice gratitude out loud, in a prayer, in silence, on your way to work. Be thankful for the simple things: your health, a roof over your head, a warm cup of coffee, the time you have to learn. Gratitude trains your eyes to see abundance where you used to only see lack. And this is crucial for your financial intelligence, because when you live with a scarcity mindset, you sabotage your own progress. But when you live in internal abundance, you attract more, you keep more, you share more, and yes, you live better. Gratitude is also the antidote to comparison, that modern disease that destroys self-esteem and kills action. When you're grateful for your process and your progress, you stop looking sideways. You stop comparing your path to someone else's results. You understand that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, as long as you're in motion. Gratitude brings you back to the present, and the present is the only place where the future is built. Now here's the real magic. When you combine gratitude with clarity, focus, discipline, and decision, you become unstoppable. Even your mistakes start to have meaning. Even time seems to move with more purpose. And after walking through these 15 principles of transformation, you realize something powerful. Change is inevitable, but growth is a daily choice. Now that you've got the 15 keys in your hands, the real question isn't, does this work? It's, are you going to apply this or just admire the lock on your own stagnation? You already know the path. Clarity, consistency, financial discipline, focused action, daily rituals, and above all, ownership of your own progress. But without action, all of this becomes dead weight in your mind. So ask yourself, honestly, what will you do in the next 24 hours to take your first step? Will you review your finances, set a clear goal, clean up the space that's been holding you back? Or will you keep waiting for that perfect motivation to fall from the sky? You want financial freedom? You want personal transformation? You want to leave a real legacy? Then start today. Because 6 months from now, you'll arrive either way. The only difference will be, who did you choose to become along the way? So now I want to know, which of the 15 keys are you going to apply first? Drop it in the comments. Let me see your decision. Share your goal with the community. Because when you write it down, you commit to it. And hey, if this video sparks something inside you, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our mission to spread practical, powerful, life-changing knowledge to more people. We'll see you in the next video. But please, come back as someone who started.